What's up, Washington football team family? We're back with another episode going back to back to back. 3 episodes in 3 nights, guys. You can't tell us that we're not pushing out the content that you're looking for, you're yearning for, that you want, that you need. I told you we're going to be your number one source for everything Washington football team. Putting out content every day on our social media pages. Now we're coming out every day on our platforms as well. But we're back with another reaction pod because the Washington football team made arguably their biggest flash of the offseason, their biggest splash of the offseason so far in signing former Carolina Panther and Ohio State Buckeyes wide receiver Curtis Samuel to a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. And guys, I am ecstatic about this move. I know it's the same word that I use to describe my feelings about the William Jackson move, but I'm just as excited about this move, maybe a tad bit more, because in William Jackson's case, you were building the strength that you already had. But in Curtis Samuel's case, this offense was in dire need of a playmaker, of somebody like Curtis Samuel's stature. And like I did in last episode, I can't do anything but clap it up for the Washington football team for what they've done in the offseason so far. Bringing in Fitzmagic, from bringing in Will Jackson, and now bringing in Curtis Samuel at this price tag. I said a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. Now, that's 2 consecutive deals, guys, where we didn't break the bank. For William Jackson, where he's receiving about $14 million a year. And like I told you, that's around Trey Wayne's, Marcus Peters money. And then we signed in Curtis Samuel to under $12 million a year. So this is a perfect signing. And, I'm scoring as a Washington football team fan. I'm hesitant to give them all the props that they've had or that they deserve or maybe that they've earned because, I've been a Washington football team fan for over 20 years, so I know how this goes. Any success that we have isn't sustained, and we don't really sustain longevity as far as success goes, but I can't do anything but salute them, like I said. So, we're going to break down the signing of Curtis Samuel to D.C. Like I told you guys a couple seconds ago, this is a player that the offense is in dire need of. Last season, behind wherever quarterback it was, we weren't explosive, and we didn't have a legitimate threat outside the numbers, outside of Terry McLaurin. And then later in the season, when Terry, who came out in a recent interview and said that he was playing with 2 high ankle sprains, when those injuries and the game plan was taking him out the game, our offense was shot, especially late in the season. So bringing in somebody like Curtis Samuel is a blessing, and it's something that, like I said, we were in desperate need of. So Sir Curtis Samuel is 5'11", he's 195 pounds, and I described him as a wide receiver earlier, guys, but he is a weapon. He is an offensive weapon. I know Antonio Gibson likes to call himself the weapon, and that's his moniker, so I won't take that away from AG, because AG is still my guy. But Curtis Samuel is just strictly an offensive weapon. He's somebody that you can line up at any position on the field, whether that be in the backfield, whether that be at the Y, the Z, the X. Now, he can't play on the outside as a full-time receiver because he is more of a slot. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say a gadget guy, but he is more of a slot inside the numbers type guy. But this is definitely what we needed as the Washington football team offense. So, Curtis Samuel's entering his age 25 season. So, he won't even be turning 25 until around August, guys. He's almost a full year younger than Terry McLaurin. Let that sink in. He's been in the league 2 years longer, and he's almost a full year younger than Terry McLaurin. And the interesting thing about that, if you guys have been following the Washington football team community or the players, you guys have probably realized that Terry McLaurin was really excited about this move. I've never seen, Captain Terry, Scurry Terry, be on social media and that active on social media as he was last night. He was letting out a tweet per minute. We prayed about this in the dorms. Mood, smiley face, putting up pictures of him and Curtis Samuel, and that's actually because those guys were actually a part of the same recruiting class into Ohio State in the 2014 recruiting class. So that's an interesting tidbit, and that can only help. Curtis Samuel being familiar with a lot of resources around with that, whether that be Terry McLaurin, whether that be playing under Marty Herney and Ron Rivera in the past. So I can see why and you guys can see why I had so much faith in, Curtis Samuel potentially being a Washington football team acquisition. If you guys can remember at the end of my William Jackson episode, I said hopefully we sign a big offensive name, and I dropped Curtis Samuel. This is because I had a feeling. If you guys follow John Keim as well, he's had strong Ohio State Buckeye ties, and then he's a Washington football team beat writer who's been on the beat for forever, and he was just keep constantly sending out tweets like I'm still waiting on the Curtis Samuel move. Like I'm still hearing, and then he even let out a tweet yesterday before the move happened. Like let's still look out for the Curtis Samuel front. If I expect anything for him, I don't expect a 1-year deal either. Somewhere around 3 or 4 deals, and he hit it on the head. Curtis Samuel ended up signing a 3-year, $34.5 million deal. And like I said, guys, he's entering his age 25 season, and he's entering his 5th season in the league. And the reason that I'm excited about it, because he has gotten better each and every year. So to start out, when he first came in this league in 2017, he only was able to garner 151 receiving yards. Then in 2018, he was able to garner 494, in 19 627, and then this past season was a career high of 851 receiving yards. But remember, guys, like I told you, Curtis Samuel isn't just a receiver, and it wouldn't be fair to label him that, because this past season, he actually carried the ball 41 times. He carried the ball 41 times for somebody that's supposed to be labeled just a receiver. He's not that. He's an offensive weapon, and he managed to get 200 yards on those 41 carries to take him over 1,000 all-purpose yards for the season. So he's somebody that's coming off a 1,000 all-purpose yard season, and we need that type of production on the Washington football team. Like I said, outside of Terry, nobody scares you on the outside, and I know I said that, Curtis Samuel may be playing primarily in the slot, but he is somebody that you can line up outside, and he's shown that he can have productivity lining up on the outside. And one of my favorite things about Curtis Samuel, rather than other gadget type players or jet sweep type players, is he can run every route in the route tree, and he's gotten better at that every year. We got to remember, or if you guys don't know, Curtis Samuel was damn near a full-time running back when he was playing on the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you guys remember that legendary run he had against the Michigan State Wolverines to end the game in double overtime. So he was transitioning over, kind of like how Antonio Gibson is making the transition from receiver to running back. He was trying to kind of transitioning from running back to full-time receiver, entering the NFL. And my favorite thing about that is that he's gotten better at it, like I said, every year. The route running has gotten better. He can run every route in the route tree. He can route every route. I'm not saying that he's the best at it, but he can separate with the best of them. And he's just an electrifying player with the ball in his hands. Like I said, he had 41 carries last season. He had 41 carries last season, and that was in a new offense with, Joe Brady and Matt Rule, who had a more college-type explosive offense, but they knew how to utilize his skill set. And I believe that somebody like Scott Turner is going to be able to utilize his skill set as well. If you guys can look at the trend of, this last 4 games that Scott called in 2019 after he took over for his father as the Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator after Rivera had got fired, Curtis Samuel's production had an uptick. He had more receiving yards per game and more rushing yards per game as he did before and earlier in points in that season. So I can only see, Scott Turner using more, creative ways to get him the ball. And I even sent out a tweet yesterday. Can you imagine, maybe not a 3 backfield set, but or a set where Curtis Samuel is motioning in the backfield and you can have 3 options of giving the ball to between McKissick, Samuel, and Gibson? Oh my God. Oh, those are three explosive threats that have experience receiving and rushing the ball. Guys, I can honestly see this offense doing a complete 180. A lot of us in the Washington football team community, including myself, felt like the offense was holding this team back last year, and I didn't necessarily have a positive outlook towards the offense going into this upcoming season, but now I do, with the acquisition of Fitzmagic, who I know is going to throw the ball deep, which may cause more turnovers than Alex had, but I know he's going to have more splash plays. And if you just look and compare their numbers from last season, they played in relatively the same amount of games. Ryan Fitzpatrick's numbers were better. Across the board, they were better. Better deep ball thrower. He was more accurate. He had more yards per game. He was a better quarterback, and he's older than Alex Smith, which is surprisingly. And one thing that I really want to talk about with Curtis Samuel is he had the highest conversion catch rate on deep ball passes last year. So this is a perfect This is a perfect pairing between Fitzmagic and Curtis Samuel, guys. And now with the acquisition of Curtis Samuels, and I'm not just saying it's just this one player, but guys, we're going to have so much speed on the field now. We're going to have so much speed on the field now. I know a lot of people weren't enamored with Steven Sims in his rookie year, but if we're going to be honest, Steven Sims had quite a disappointing sophomore year. He had a lot of drops, and I think a lot of people have been, fooled by Steven Sims. I think Steven Sims is a pretty decent player, but if you look at his athletic profile, he isn't somebody that, was expected to jump off the page. And I'm not saying, that, measurements and, intangible numbers. Tangible numbers are everything. It's all about the heart in the dog, as that old saying is. But Steven Sims is somebody who's about 5'8" and he runs on like a 4.6 40. I think a lot of us in the Washington football team community think that Steven Sims Jr. is faster than he is, but he's not. He's not running with, Curtis Samuel, who's running a 4.31, Terry McLaurin, who clocked in at a 4.36, and Antonio Gibson, who's clocking in at a 4.39. He's actually one of our slower skill players that saw a lot of snaps. So, leading up into that and segueing out of that, I do think that this signing may spell the end for Steven Sims Jr. as a Washington football team player. He may have to battle it out for the backup slot position in training camp, but we'll see. We'll see what we have to do in the draft as well. So speaking of the draft, this signing has only made the draft selection at 19 more of a wild card, because we don't know who we're going to select. A lot of people were figuring that we may not go quarterback in the first round after the Fitzmagic signing, but I'm hearing a lot of beat reporters saying let's not count that out just yet. Let's not count that out just yet. I'm personally thinking that we may go defense, like a linebacker, like I told you guys before, that I think, that Jack and Ron, who are linebackers, men are actually looking for, their Luke Kuechly-esque type linebacker to anchor the defense. So, maybe a Zaven Collins, or if a Michael Parsons slips, or JOK, if they, if they're there at 19. But honestly, if you pair somebody like Rashad Bateman or Jalen Waddle with Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and then have Fitzmagic throwing the ball, who I know can be turnover prone at times, but he's going to air it out. So he's going to give the receiver chances. And if you have this much talent, chances are all they need. Chances are all they need to succeed. Like, think about the Kansas City Chiefs offense. I know, they struggled in the Super Bowl, but think about what they've been or what they've sustained over the past 3 years. That's because they have speed demons on the outside. When you got McCole Hardman, who's slower than Curtis Samuel, but then you have like Tyreek Hill, who's a freak of nature type athlete. But I believe that Curtis Samuel can serve in that Tyreek Hill type role, because Tyreek Hill did see his fair share of carries earlier in his career and things like that before he became this dominant number one receiver. But I'm starting to see a blueprint for this Washington football team offense, and I'm very, very excited about it. Guys, we're going to have so much speed on the field. I made a tweet yesterday on my Bleeding BNG Twitter page where I said, pairing Fitzmagic with a quarterback who likes to go deep with guys like J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, who runs a 4.39, Terry McLaurin, who runs a 4.36, and Curtis Samuel, who runs a 4.31. This isn't your grandfather's Washington football team offense, or the Washington R-word offense. This isn't your typical grandfather's offense. We have the potential to do a complete 180 and go from a team who was just looking to move the chains to having explosive plays. I honestly think we have the potential to have our best offense since the 2016 season. That was the season that essentially got Sean McVay the job with the Los Angeles Rams. If you guys remember, at that point in the season, Kirk was did Kirk throw for over 5,000 yards? He may have, or he might have been just under, but we had 3 1,000-yard receivers between Crowder, Jackson, and Garcon, and we were putting up historical numbers without a run game that year. And I think that this offense has a chance to be more balanced and just as explosive. We are missing, a dynamic tight end, just as dynamic as Jordan Reed, but we still have Logan Thomas, who was damn good in his breakout season last year. And a report from John Keim as well said that the team is looking to pair Logan Thomas with another tight end throughout free agency as well. So I'm really excited about this offensive outlook for the team, guys. Like I said earlier, I do expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to start, and that's going to be a good thing for these dynamic playmakers because he is going to give them a chance. And then knowing that we have a defense who we can't wear down, so we don't want too many turnovers, but a defense that may essentially may not break once they give the ball up, who may be stout enough to hold their point of attack and get the ball back potentially with athletes like William Jackson on the outside, and then the dynamic front four with Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, and that Alabama wall, Matt Ioannidis and them, Jonathan Allen. Guys, we're getting close to that Super Bowl contender field, and I'm hesitant to give you that. Like I said, I've been scoring so many years as a Washington football team fan, but I am really, really excited about the outlook of this season. Bringing in a dynamic athlete like Curtis Samuel, all that's going to do is pairing him with Terry McLaurin is going to put stands in the seat. Hopefully, once this pandemic is over, and it's 2021. Teams put points up on the board. It's great, building a foundation on defense and things like that, but they're not going to win you a Super Bowl like the 2000 Ravens. They're not going to do that in this day and age, not when the rules have changed to favor the offense and not when, so many people are involved in fantasy football. Those days are over on just relying on a defense to win you a championship. You need pieces and dynamic athletes like, Terry McLaurin, like a Curtis Samuel, like an Antonio Gibson, who even if your offense isn't that good, or, that offensive game plan isn't that sustainable, they can provide you with those big, deep flash plays that, you may score with a flash in the pan that, say, hey, in 1 minute into the game, it's 7-0, defense hold them. Like, what you going to do? What, 3 minutes into the game, it's 14-0 defense. Our defense should be good enough to uphold a 14-point lead at this point. Guys, if you can't tell, I'm really excited about this season. Thank you for tuning in. As I do after the end of every episode, please make sure that you're following our social media pages. Our Instagram is at BLEE DING, that's bleeding BNG, and then our Twitter is a tad bit different. It's only one G, so it's at BLEEDINBNG. And also, guys, please make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube page as well, and please leave those comments on our our podcast platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play. We're available on everything at this point. Like I said, guys, we're pushing out this content. Remember, follow us. We're your number one source for everything Washington football team. Nobody's bringing you as much content. 3 podcasts in 3 days. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate the feedback. I love you guys. I'll see you guys soon.